Hi everyone, my name is Awais Khan and I'm the author of In the Company of Strangers that is published by Simon & Schuster India. I'm here to answer some author corner questions for you guys today. I'm very excited to do so. Transforming a body of work into a readable manuscript requires a great deal of perseverance, some skill, and you need to have some knowledge of editing as well. A manuscript needs to have continuity. It needs to go at some point, sometimes it needs to follow a linear progression from point A to point B. Remember, it's like you're writing a novel, or even if it's a piece of non-fiction, it has to have a certain plot to it. It has to have a plot that has legs. So you need to test that when you're writing a manuscript and a novel. And then you need to make sure that your point of view is accurate and it reflects the spirit of your character. And your characters themselves should be full of life. They should have their individual quirks, their individual behavior, they should have certain mannerisms, certain motivations, because a character without motivation is like a cork bobbing aimlessly in the water. So and in addition to that, you need to make sure that your dialogue is perfect, and overall the manuscript is readable, and there is a certain degree and there's a hook that keeps the reader captivated. So these are all the things that I would suggest that a novel or a manuscript should have, and that is how you differentiate between a certain body of work and a proper manuscript. So that's what my advice would be. In the Company of Strangers is a book that I had been thinking about writing for a very long time. I have some experience with certain classes of Lahore society. I thought that it might be a good idea to write about them, because the literature we get from Pakistan sometimes is very grim, and it sort of portrays a very negative image of Pakistan, I feel. So I really wanted to write about that alternate side to Pakistan. And I think it was when I took the Faber course in London, that is when I decided that I do have an idea that could turn into a book, and that's when I took it seriously. And when I got that feedback from my instructors and from my peers, I realized that this is something that is ready. So afterwards, once I was finished with the course, then I realized that I had written something that is in a way good enough, and obviously I had to work a lot on it. So that's how it In the Company of Strangers came into being. I think no matter how old you are, or how experienced a writer you are, or no matter how popular you are, it's that you always have to go through rejection. I mean, all writers have to go through rejections their entire lives. I mean, at first it's rejections from agents, then it's rejections from publishers, and then even when you've produced your first book, and even if it has done well or hasn't done well, or whatever the case is, you still face rejections from publishers. I think writers are more acclimated to rejections than anybody else in the world, I think. So when you get a rejection, I won't say that try not to feel anything at all. I think give yourself a day or two, because I think being rejected is a big deal. So do give yourself some time to sort of ponder over it, and sort of feel sad about it, and look at what kind of critical feedback you've been given. But after that, just put that thing aside, and don't think about it anymore. Don't think about that rejection anymore. Think about how you can make your work better, and think about how you can move forward from here. So believe me, I've had my fair share of rejections. I submitted to dozens of agents, and dozens of agents rejected me. And after a while, I just got used to it. So I think you need to have a very thick skin if you want to succeed as a writer in this world. So once you feel that your work is up to the mark, I would suggest that you put it away for a couple of weeks and don't look at it at all. After a few weeks, once you look at it again, a lot of mistakes, blunders will jump out at you that you otherwise wouldn't have noticed. So when you believe that your work is now ready to be submitted to agents, it might not yet be ready. But once you've done editing that, and you feel now there is nothing more to be done, then you can start researching agents. So there's no hard and fast rule about agents, except the fact that most agents require a covering letter, the first 3 chapters, and a synopsis. It's very important to show the agent that you have invested some time and effort into researching them. If you want the agent to give you their time, you have to show them that you have also given them your time. So don't go and send a dear sir, madam sort of generic email to 100 agents. Those agents will delete your email without even reading your work. So it's very important to make a connection with the agent first. So spend some time looking at the agent, shortlist some agents that you feel are right for you, and then make a submission to a few agents. Don't make a submission to 100 agents, because if you get rejected by all 100 of them, then you literally burnt your bridges. You should submit to like 6 or 7 agents at a time, so that even if you're getting some critical feedback, then you know that maybe your novel needs some more work. So when you're writing your covering letter, try to research what the agent has represented in the past and quote that, because agents really appreciate that you have invested some time and effort into looking them up. And if your work is similar to what they represent, then they will take kindly to your submission. And always use a good blurb for your manuscript. The blurb is what you read on the back of the cover, so that it has to be something that has a hook that is enticing to an agent. And synopsis is a tricky thing. Synopses are generally not that interesting, and agents don't really expect them to be very interesting because they are synopses. So your synopsis doesn't have to be like something that out of the world. So just make sure that it is readable, that it is normal, and something that is easily readable. That's it. And as far as your chapters are concerned, most of the agents they give up on the submission after reading the first chapter, because they just don't see the hook there. They don't find that hook. So your novel needs to have that hook to lure the agent or the reader in. If it doesn't have that, then there is very little chance that the agent will read the entire submission that you've sent them. So this is what I tried as well. I researched. At first I was a bit foolish. I also submitted to a lot of agents, and I didn't really take any sort of advice, and I suffered the consequences, because I got a flurry of rejections and not a single full manuscript request. But then I looked at my work again, and then I edited it, and I took the Faber course, the Faber editing course, and I worked with an editor, Hazel Orme. She's a freelance editor and absolutely the best in the field. And when she gave me the go-ahead, that is when I started submitting to agents. She literally gave me like a green light. She was like, now I think your work is ready to be seen by agents. And she was right. I submitted to, I didn't submit to a lot of agents again. I submitted to 7 or 8. And I think I received a full manuscript request from 4 of them, which is a very good result. And one of them offered representation, so I signed up with Annette Crossland. And I also made sure that my covering letter was not a generic one. So I researched each of these agents separately, and I drafted my covering letter accordingly to their submission guidelines. Remember, you have to follow their submission guidelines, because it is very important. Sometimes they will they will require certain font, sometimes they require certain font size, sometimes they require the first 3 chapters, but others might require the first 50 pages. So you have to make sure that everything down to the last detail is as requested, because otherwise you'll just get rejected without them having read your work. And a good resource for agents would be, for researching agents, is www.litrejections.com. This is one of the best free resources out there that lists all of the US and UK and other agents worldwide. So I used that resource, and it is very good actually. So I would definitely recommend that. Otherwise, you can get the Writers and Artists Yearbook. That is always very easily available via Amazon, or if you're even in bookstores now. So that is what my advice would be to people who think that they are now ready to submit their work to agents. And good luck.